currently in college, maybe go to them, get some advice, some stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I had like also like friends and no friends in colleges that you're going to, the additional cost of living in those cities, whether or not you'd have to get a job or not, what the additional cost that would be. And then we also just kind of said like summing up like what are the most important factors for the kid. So like whether it's being farther away from home or being closer to home, not taking a loan out, taking a loan out, trying to see where they're kind of at that point too.
I like that because it seems like you really want to explore with them more instead of just giving them advice. So that was something you're already inclined to want to do, is get more information from them. When Laura and I did ours, we kind of talked about like how much is too much, and she kind of asked, well, what is considered a menu of options? You know, there's no like three to 8 kind of mindset of what you have to do. But for me, if I have a menu of options, I'd want it more than 2, right? But if you start giving out too much, then you kind of get lost in it. We had like 5 suggestions for the college one, but we thought if we would have given any more, I think they would have been like, oh, like that's a lot going on. And I found it easier, and I don't know if you guys thought about this, compared to the other advice, is that I've personally been through this. So it's easy for me to be like, boom, 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 boom. I'll give you a bunch of different options and advice. But the other ones, I'm like, I wouldn't know what to say because I've never been through that. So I'm curious how that relates to our professional relationship with the clients too, or with parents if they're asking us for advice and we've never really been in that situation. How to kind of handle it.
I mean, I feel like in stuff like that too, it's important to be kind of upfront about it. Maybe one thing if like we didn't go to college and we're trying to be like, well, this is what I think you should do personally.
Right.
So I wouldn't know, but like with the other ones, like you're right, like I have no idea about like an aging parent and stuff like that. So like for me, it's a matter of like, well, if I were in your position, this is, but I don't know all the, like to be upfront, like I don't know what all the factors truly are because I haven't gone through it before, but I think that's probably the most important, is just being upfront about it, so you're not trying to seem like you know anything, like there are some things I'm not sure about, but I can help you figure out a way
To explore this yourself. And I think that's where MI comes in really handy, because there's going to be situations where we're not going to know it all, but we know how to at least get it from them, what's most important or what's motivating them. And sometimes even my advice is, I don't know anything about this. Some people have found it helpful to talk to somebody who does. What do you think about that? What about the second one, change in careers?
I know this when Caitlin and I had talked that for like us personally, talking to like a friend, it felt weird for me to try and do like an MI type of thing, because like I told her, I go, if I ever did that to her, I know she'd be like, what are you doing? Stop. Like, so it made it a little bit more difficult just because of that, because I'm like, well, in my head, I'm like, I wouldn't actually like tell my best friend this. Like, this is not how I would broach this, like the subject with her. So, but I mean, still able to do it. But you know, we talk about how it sounds like, you know, they're on the fence about what they want. We stole this from Mariana. If they want someone to just listen to them, or if they want actual advice at this point.
Something I actually asked my sister when she asked me for advice. I was like, do you just want me to listen, or do you actually want to hear like advice?
Yeah.
And that is really helpful to sometimes just be that straightforward.
Yeah.
What's interesting about the sample that they gave in this, it was all reflections. And I was thinking about that, like I felt the same way. I felt uncomfortable to be like, well, have you tried this, this, and this, because you get more personally invested if you're giving advice and then they don't take it. then you're more kind of like, what, why'd you even ask me? You get kind of upset about it, especially when it's a personal relationship, which is where we have to be careful even in our professional relationships. If we give advice for them to be like, I don't like any of those, and to be like, then that's okay. But it was interesting that in this example, it was more, I'm gonna reflect back to you what you've told me. Because that gets real tricky real easily, right? When it's that personal one, and then you're giving them, telling them what they should do.
It would be helpful too to kind of maybe ask them, kind of explore their feelings a little bit more too. Like, where do you see yourself in both jobs a year from now? Like, what will you gain? What will you lose? And have them answer that. So.
Do you feel like that seemed, could you see yourself asking those questions in your personal relationship? So you guys already really felt like I need to do more open questions and exploring more change talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. You guys had that natural kind of instinct. I like that. So yeah, I feel like there was, because that's something that's a personal decision that they would have to make, that you can't have somebody tell them for it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I thought this was a good practice, because how many of these things with our clients are personal changes that they have to make? And if you come in telling them they have to do all of this, they're gonna feel that uncomfortableness, just like we felt that uncomfortableness even in this exercise. Like, I can't just be telling you what to do. This is your personal change and choice. Okay, so for time's sake, let's move on to the third one, an aging parent. What did this one look like for you?
I mean, like I said before, because it's a situation that I've never had to encounter, I mean, we talked about just essentially like, here's how others I know have been able to do this.
Mhm.
Like, would you like to hear suggestions of how they came to, you know, their decision? And, we brought up like, you know, financially the burden it would to either put her somewhere or bring her in, mental health of people in the home, and talking to mom about what she actually wants to do.
You said like even maybe trying like a small trial period while you are still trying to decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Temporary.
Like if you're like if all these places you look are only the most you've seen are Castle, find one that's more suitable. But while she's like either in the home to see if that's like if it could be an option long term.
Right.
So
So you're able to come up with some ideas, but I like too that, to me, that's also a menu of options. What does your mom feel about this? What does your wife feel about this? How would this affect you if it was, 10 years from now? How would it look if it was just 1 year from now? It's still kind of giving them an options of different things to explore, to look at. And you also did a good job of emphasizing personal choice. And even saying, wow, this must be a big decision. I would really struggle with that. And it's kind of up to you and what's gonna work best for you and your family. So you're really emphasizing this is your decision. Anything else you'd like to add to the aging parent? Did anybody have time to get to that last one? No? Okay. Laura and I did, and this is your best friend getting married, and just kind of what we talked about earlier, this one you'd have to be really careful about giving advice. So for me, I'd almost look at it more as giving a concern than you need to do this, this, and this. But is it okay with you if I share what some of my concerns are for you? And then we shared our concerns, and then we ended up, what was your reaction to that about my concerns? Because you have to be, that again is a very personal choice somebody has to make, that it might be really hard for them to hear advice from somebody else. So that's something to be mindful of too. If you know it's something that could potentially be really hard to hear advice, that might not be the good time to do it, but that might be a good time then just to information share or share a concern. I wanna squeeze in one last activity if you guys